probably looking at this whole self-improvement thing wrong. And the worst part is, you don't even know it. Because the way you're doing it feels like progress. It feels like you're working on yourself. It feels like you're moving forward. You're reading the books. You're listening to the talks. You're taking the courses. You're attending the seminars. You're filling notebooks with ideas. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you believe that all of this is going to add up to a different version of you eventually. It isn't. Here's the truth. The vast majority of people who consider themselves into self-improvement are actually further from changing than the average person who never reads a book about it. Because they have built a sophisticated illusion of growth fed by all the reading and watching that protects them from doing the actual work of growing. They feel like they're improving. They are not. They are studying. And after 20 years of studying, they are essentially the same person they were when they started. Except now, they have very strong opinions about what other people should do to improve themselves. Today, I want to walk you through 5 reasons why most self-improvement doesn't work, and what actually does. Because the gap between those two things is enormous, and most people will spend their entire adult life in the wrong column without ever realizing it. Reading the books, watching the talks, going to the events, year after year, decade after decade, and changing almost nothing about the actual shape of their life. The fix isn't to stop trying to improve. The fix is to stop mistaking the appearance of improvement for the real thing and start doing the boring, slow, repetitive work that actually changes who you are. By the end of this talk, you'll know the difference. You must take what I'm about to tell you seriously, because the gap between knowing this and not knowing this will define the next decade of your life. And what you do with that knowledge is up to you. Now, before we get into it, you have to understand what is at stake here. Because most people, when they pick up another self-improvement book, think they are at worst making no progress. They figure, at least I'm not getting worse, at least I'm trying. But that isn't actually what's happening. Reading about the work without doing the work is actively worse than reading nothing at all, because it gives you the feeling of progress without the substance. And the feeling without the substance is a trap. You see, your brain releases the same chemicals when you read about doing something useful as when you actually do something useful. The book about exercise gives you a small hit of accomplishment. The talk about discipline gives you a small hit of accomplishment. The seminar about wealth gives you a small hit of accomplishment. And after enough of these hits, your brain has been rewarded for the reading so many times that it doesn't need the actual behavior anymore. The reading has replaced the doing, and you don't notice because you feel like you're doing something. Here's the truth. The person who reads 0 self-improvement books, but does one new thing in their life every quarter, is going to outperform the person who reads 50 self-improvement books, but does nothing. Every single time. Because the first person is building. The second person is just feeding the feeling of building. And after 10 years, the first person has done 40 new things and incorporated some of them into a different life. The second person has read 500 books and is in roughly the same position they were a decade ago, but with a much better developed opinion about what they should be doing. You must understand this clearly. The risk of all this reading and watching isn't that it doesn't work. The risk is that it makes you feel like you are working, while the actual conditions of your life stay exactly the same. It is an anesthetic dressed up as a stimulant. It dulls the very pain that should be motivating you to take real action. I am telling you, the people who eventually break out of this trap are the ones who let themselves feel that pain instead of medicating it with another book. The pain is the fuel. The book is the painkiller. And the painkiller has been keeping you in place. The people stuck in this trap are everywhere. They are some of the most well-read, articulate, intelligent people you know. And they aren't living lives that reflect any of what they have absorbed because they read it. They never did it. And reading is not doing. That distinction today is everything. You must hold on to it through everything else I'm going to tell you. The whole rest of this talk is going to be about how to stop being a reader and start being a doer. And the difference between those two roles is the difference between staying who you are and becoming somebody new. The first thing you have to see clearly is that reading about self-improvement is not self-improvement. Watching a talk about discipline is not discipline. Listening to somebody describe the work is not the work. They feel similar. They activate similar parts of the brain, but they produce completely different results. You see, taking in all this material gives you the experience of growth without any of the actual change. Your knowledge expands. Your vocabulary expands. Your understanding of the concepts expands. And because all of that feels like growth, because expansion of any kind feels like progress, you mistake the expansion of your understanding for the expansion of your capability. But understanding something and being able to do it aren't the same thing. Most people who can explain in detail the principles of building a great body can't build one. Most people who can articulate beautifully the philosophy of discipline aren't disciplined. Most people who have read every book about money are still struggling with money. Here's the truth. The knowing is the easy part. The knowing has always been the easy part. The doing is the part that requires the actual work. And the work is fundamentally different from any amount of reading, listening, or watching. The person who reads about exercise for an hour gains nothing physical. The person who exercises for an hour gains a physical change. Same hour. Completely different result. And the trap is that the first hour feels productive, feels like you're working on yourself, when in fact, your body is exactly where it was when you started. I am telling you, this is the trap that catches the most ambitious people, because ambitious people love learning. They love the feeling of having figured something out. They love adding new frameworks to their mental toolkit. So they keep reading more and more, telling themselves that they're preparing to do the work, that they're getting their ducks in a row, that the right framework is just around the corner. And then a decade passes, and they have 30 frameworks, and they have done almost nothing with any of them, because the framework was never the work. The framework was the preparation for the work. And preparation, beyond a certain point, is just procrastination, wearing a respectable name. You have to catch yourself doing this. The next time you finish a book about a thing you want to change, ask yourself, what am I actually going to do about this today, in the next hour, in my current life? If the answer is, I'll think about it, or I'll buy another book, or I'll start next week, you have studied instead of done. You must stop studying, start doing. Even badly, even with the wrong framework, even before you feel ready. Because the doing is the only thing that ever changes anything. Everything else is just preparation. And preparation without execution is just an expensive form of being stuck. The second thing you have to understand is that most self-improvement runs on motivation. And motivation is rented, not owned. You can borrow it from a book, a seminar, a talk, a recording, but you cannot keep it. It leaves. Every single time, it always leaves. You see, the way most self-improvement is delivered is designed to produce an emotional high. The speaker gets you fired up. The author paints the picture of who you could be. The seminar ends with everybody standing, applauding, full of conviction that things are going to be different now. And on the drive home, you feel different, lighter, bigger, more capable. And for 3 days, maybe a week, you ride that wave. You wake up earlier. You eat better. You write the list. You make the calls. The motivation is doing the work. And the motivation feels endless. You think, finally, I figured this out. Then on day 8 or day 10, the motivation runs out. Because it was rented from someone else, and the rental period has ended. The book you read isn't fresh in your mind anymore. The speaker isn't yelling at you anymore. The emotional high has been replaced by the same old grind that was there before. And you stop. And then you tell yourself you need to find new motivation. You buy another book. You attend another seminar. You watch another talk. And the cycle starts over. 3 days of motivation, followed by collapse, then another rental. Here's the truth. The people who actually change their lives don't run on motivation. They run on structure. They built a structure once, slowly and carefully, that produces the behavior whether they feel motivated or not. The structure is owned. The structure doesn't expire. The structure doesn't need to be refreshed by another book. And the structure is boring to talk about. It doesn't make a great seminar. Nobody buys a book about pick one small thing, do it every day for 2 years, don't stop. That book would be 30 pages and wouldn't sell. So the industry doesn't sell it. It sells the motivational story. The motivational story rents you motivation for a week. But here's what most people never figure out. The cure isn't more motivational material. The cure is to stop chasing motivation entirely. To accept that motivation is unreliable, temporary, and not necessary for change. To build a small structure that produces the behavior on the days you feel nothing. You must let go of the idea that you need to feel inspired to take action. The disciplined people don't feel inspired most of the time. They just do the thing because the structure does the thing. And the doing accumulated over years becomes the life. Motivation never built anything. Structure builds everything. And the structure is yours the moment you stop renting your effort from somebody else's voice. The third thing you have to look at clearly is what the self-improvement industry is actually selling you. Because if the products work the way they're advertised, if reading the book actually produced the change, the industry would collapse. There would be no need for the next book, the next seminar, the next course. The economic model of self-improvement requires that you stay improving forever, which is another way of saying it requires that you never actually arrive. Because if you arrived, you would stop buying. And the people selling you the books and seminars can't afford for you to stop buying. So the products are designed in a particular way. They give you enough to feel like you're moving. They give you enough to make you want the next thing. But they almost never give you what would actually finish the work, because finishing isn't profitable. You see, the secret of every functional self-improvement principle is that it is simple, almost embarrassingly simple. Pick one small thing. Do it every day. Don't stop. That is the entire technology. The whole industry is built on dressing that one principle up in 5,000 different costumes, so they can sell it back to you 5,000 different times. And you, the reader, never get to the simple version. You stay in the costume layer. You think the next book might have the answer. You think the next teacher might have the framework. You think the next course might unlock the door. So you keep buying. Here's the truth. There is no door to unlock. There is no framework to discover. There is no book that will hand you what you have been searching for. Because what you've been searching for cannot be handed to you. It has to be built slowly by you, doing one small thing every day for a long time. And nobody can sell you that. They can only point at it. The pointing has become a multi-billion-dollar industry. The doing is still free. You have to see this clearly. The people who get rich from self-improvement are mostly not the people who follow self-improvement advice. They are the people who sell self-improvement to other people. And the customer base depends on staying in the reader role. Once a customer becomes a person who has actually changed, they leave the market. This isn't a conspiracy. It's just economics. But you have to understand the economics so you stop being a perpetual customer. The moment you accept that there is no next book, no next seminar, no next course that's going to give you what you need, that moment, you stop buying. And the energy you use to spend buying, you can now spend doing. The doing is what produces the change. The doing was always going to be the thing. Stop funding the appearance of change. Start producing actual change. The math, once you see it, is impossible to unsee. The fourth thing you have to understand is that change is behavioral, not cognitive. You cannot think your way into a different life. You cannot believe your way into it. You cannot reframe your way into it. You can only do your way into it. And most self-improvement is aimed at the wrong level. Most self-improvement is cognitive. It teaches you to reframe your thoughts, to change your beliefs, to visualize your success, to affirm your worth. All of which sounds like work and feels like work, but produces almost no change in the actual conditions of your life. Because none of it is at the level where the conditions live. The conditions of your life live at the level of what you do every single day with your time and your body. Not at the level of what you think about while you're sitting still. The thinking by itself doesn't move the conditions. The behavior moves the conditions. Let me tell you about a man I once knew. He had been doing self-improvement for 15 years by the time he came to me. 15 years. He had read more than 200 books. He had attended more than 30 seminars. He had taken more than 50 courses in every format you could imagine. He could recite the major frameworks from memory. He could tell you the difference between the schools of thought. And his life looked essentially the same as it had looked when he had started. Same body, same income, same relationships, same sense of dissatisfaction. He came to me exhausted, frustrated. He said, I don't understand. I've done everything they said to do. I have read everything they said to read. Why am I still here? And I asked him one question. I said, in the last 15 years, name one specific habit you have maintained without interruption for more than 90 days. He thought about it for a long time. He couldn't name one, not one. Despite all the reading, all the seminars, all the courses, he had never actually maintained a single behavior change for 90 consecutive days. I told him, that is your problem. You have been studying change, not making it. And you must understand the distinction before anything else can shift for you. The books did not lie to you. The seminars did not lie to you. But the books and seminars aren't change. The doing is change. And you have done nothing consistently for any length of time. That is why you are still here. He sat with that for a long time. Then he asked what to do. I told him, pick one thing, just one. Do it every morning for the next 90 days. And in those 90 days, you are forbidden from reading another self-improvement book. You are forbidden from attending another seminar. You are forbidden from taking another course. The reading stops. The doing starts. He picked one thing. He started writing for 30 minutes every morning, just 30 minutes without exception. No more books for him, no more seminars, just the writing. A year later, he came back. He was a different man. He had written a draft of a book. He had lost 20 pounds because the discipline of one habit had spread to others without him forcing it. He had gotten promoted at work because the consistency had changed how he showed up everywhere else. He told me the 200 books had done nothing. The single sustained behavior had done everything. The change had been waiting for him on the other side of doing, not on the other side of more reading. And he had spent 15 years reading because reading felt like doing. The day he accepted that doing was the only thing that did anything, that day, his real life started. 15 years he had wasted, not because the books were bad, but because he had treated the books as the work. The books were never the work. The work was always the work. And the work could only be done by doing every single day in his actual life, not by reading about somebody else's. The fifth thing you have to accept is that what actually works is boring and slow and repetitive, and nobody is going to make it sound thrilling. Nobody is going to write a bestseller about it because there's almost nothing to say about it. You see, the real engine of change is one small habit done every single day for years. That's it. That's the entire technology. There are no advanced techniques. There are no secret unlocks. There is no shortcut. There never was. There never will be. The shortcut is a lie that gets sold to people who haven't accepted the long way yet. There is only the daily repetition, sustained for long enough that it changes who you are at the level of identity. And most people, when they hear this, are disappointed. They wanted something more. They wanted the framework that would change everything. They wanted the principle they hadn't heard before. They wanted the hack. And here you are telling them, pick one small thing. Do it every day. Do not stop. The smallness offends them. The slowness offends them. But here's the truth. The smallness and the slowness are the design, not the bug. The reason most people don't change is that they can't accept that change comes through small, slow, repetitive action. They keep looking for something bigger, faster, more impressive. And while they're looking, the small repetitive action is what would have changed them if they had been doing it the whole time. The person who walks 30 minutes every morning for 20 years has built a different body than the person who reads about exercise for 20 years. The person who writes 200 words every morning for 20 years has built a different mind than the person who reads about writing for 20 years. The person who saves 10% of every paycheck for 20 years has built a different bank account than the person who reads about money for 20 years. The math doesn't care how exciting your method was. The math only cares whether the action got repeated. The boring, slow, repetitive action is what produces the math, and the math is what produces the life. You must make peace with the slowness. You must accept that you won't see meaningful results in 30 days, or 60, or 90. The meaningful results show up at year 2, year 5, year 10. And by then, you won't even remember what it felt like to be the person who couldn't sustain a habit for 90 days. I'm telling you, this is the entire secret. The boring, slow, repetitive action, sustained over years, is the only thing that has ever produced lasting change in any human being. Everything else is decoration. Everything else is performance. The thing that works was always in front of you. It just didn't look impressive enough to take seriously. So here's what I want you to do. If you have been stuck in the reading trap for years, the fix isn't complicated. The fix is to invert your approach to self-improvement entirely. First, stop buying. No new books for the next 6 months. No new seminars, no new courses, no new recordings about how to change your life. Whatever you have already absorbed in your decades of studying is enough. You don't need more input. You need to apply what you already have. The next book you read on self-improvement is going to make you feel like you're moving while keeping you exactly where you are. Don't reach for it. Trust me on this. The library you've already built in your head is more than enough to carry you for the next 10 years of doing. Second, pick one thing, just one. The thing you have known for years that you should be doing, that you haven't been doing. Maybe it is exercise. Maybe it is writing. Maybe it is reading something other than self-improvement. Maybe it is saving money before spending it. Maybe it is calling your mother. Whatever it is, pick it. Make it small, embarrassingly small. 5 minutes, 200 words, $10. The smallness is the point. You want something you can do every single day without negotiation. Third, do it for 2 years, not 90 days. 2 years without stopping, without missing more than 2 days in a row at any point, without trying to make it bigger. Just the small thing, every day for 2 years. You see, the doing of this is going to produce a transformation in you that no book ever could. Not because the small thing is magical. It isn't. But because the act of sustaining one behavior for 2 years rewires you at a level that no amount of reading will ever reach. You become somebody who does what they said they would do. And that single quality, the doing of what you said, is the foundation of every other change. That's the whole plan. Stop buying. Pick one thing. Do it for 2 years. You must commit to all 3, not just one of them. There is no 4th step. There is no 5th step. There is no framework that goes deeper than this. Anybody who tells you there is selling you something that will keep you exactly where you are while making you feel like you're moving. Drop the studying. Pick up the doing. Watch what happens over the next 2 years. The change you've been waiting for has not been hiding in the next book or the next program. It has been waiting on the other side of doing something, anything, consistently. You have to choose it. Nobody will choose it for you. And the longer you stay in the reader role, the longer the version of you who would have built something stays trapped inside the version of you who is still reading about building. The change you've been chasing for a decade has been waiting on the other side of this one inversion the entire time. So here's what I want you to carry with you. Most self-improvement doesn't work because it isn't designed to work. It is designed to feel like it works while keeping you in the role of reader. The way out isn't more reading. The way out is to stop reading and start doing. There is a version of you who's still going to be reading self-improvement books 10 years from now, still attending the seminars, still watching the talks, still feeling like you're working on yourself, and still living essentially the same life you live today. That version is going to be exhausted by the gap between how much they have absorbed and how little has changed. There's another version of you who, starting tomorrow, picks one small thing and does it every single day for 2 years. That version isn't going to read another self-improvement book during those 2 years. That version is going to look very different by month 24 than they look right now. You must decide which version you want to be. The decision isn't between improving and not improving. It is between studying improvement and producing it, between the appearance of growth and the reality of growth, between feeling like you're moving and actually moving. Here's the truth. The people who have built lives you envy are not the people who read the most self-improvement books. They are the people who read almost none and just did every single day the small thing they had decided to do. Their library is small. Their bookshelf is small. Their record of seminar attendance is small. Their record of sustained doing is enormous. That can be you. The path is available. You must take it deliberately today with one small commitment that you intend to keep for the next 2 years. It doesn't require buying anything. It doesn't require attending anything. It doesn't require figuring anything out. It requires picking one thing today and doing it tomorrow and the day after and the day after that for the next 2 years. That is the whole technology. That has always been the whole technology. Everybody who has ever changed has used that technology. There are no exceptions. There is no person in history who built something meaningful in their life by reading about it. Every single one of them, without exception, did the small thing every single day for a long time. And the small thing accumulated is what built whatever they built. And the day you stop hoping for a better one is the day you finally start using it. The doing is what works. Everything else is the long, expensive, well-articulated story of not doing. Choose to be the one who does today, starting with the smallest possible thing, and keep going until 2 years have passed.